Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a little bit of a different type of video. We're going to be doing a kind of virtual investigation on how shadows change throughout the day. Now, when we talk about shadows, it's really important to first kind of talk about how shadows are formed. So to have a shadow, you have to have two things. One, you have to have a source of light. And for our investigation, we're going to be using this flashlight. Now, right now, I have a little lamp on the other side you guys can't see over here, but I will be turning it off shortly, and we'll be using this flashlight as our source of light. The second thing you have to make a shadow is you have to have an object that can block out light. Now, to represent that object, we have this pencil that's kind of held up by this Play-Doh. Any object that can block out light can create a shadow. Now, things like air and some things that are more translucent don't always create a shadow. So we have to make sure and be careful to have something that creates a shadow because not everything does. And finally, we have this kind of sheet of paper on the desk. Now, what is this? This kind of shows the apparent movement of the sun throughout the day. So if we think of this line kind of like as the horizon line, which is kind of where we begin to see the sun at sunrise, and when we begin to see the sun go down at sunset, this is how it kind of goes throughout the sky. So we know the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And as we go throughout our day, the sun appears to be getting higher and higher in the sky. So if we start at 6 a.m., it says getting higher and higher until it's at its highest point at noon. And then after midday, we begin to, the sun seems to almost be getting lower in the sky until it disappears from our point of view and it becomes nighttime. Now, the sun really isn't moving. We're the one that's kind of rotating on our axis. And as we rotate, as we kind of turn, that's what's looking like the sun is moving. But the sun's actually stationary, and we're spinning on our axis, which is why we create our day-night cycle. So without further ado, I'm going to place my pencil right here. This is going to be the object that's going to have the shadow cast on it. It's going to be the object that is blocking light. I'm going to have my flashlight, and I'm going to turn off the lamp that we have to the side. There we go. So it's going to be hard for you, a little bit harder to see, but we're going to begin like it is 6 a.m. And before I begin, I want you guys to think, what do you think the shadows will do? How do you think the shadows will change throughout the day? I want you to pause the video and discuss. Do you have an idea? Do you think you know what's going to go on? Well, let's see if your prediction, if what you discussed, comes true. So I'm going to put the sun at 6 a.m. Now, hopefully it will stay. Okay, so do you see right here? This is the shadow that it's creating. So what I'm going to do is I am going to hopefully not keep it stable. Okay, I'm going to pull out a colored pencil. I'm going to kind of shade in where it is. So I believe this is a brown. I'm going to kind of go and outline where I see it in brown. I'm going to kind of make sure I make it so I can really see it. And I'm going to kind of just shade it in so I know where it is. I'm going to put brown at the bottom of 6 a.m. Okay, well, we're up at the crack of dawn. 3 hours later, the sun seems to be moving across the sky, and we are at 9 a.m. And here is the shadow being cast. So I'm going to make another sketch. I'm going to outline the shadow. So I'm going to try to do this one in orange. And I'm going to color it in. And now I go to noon. It's at the highest point in the sky. So I'm going to pull out another color. I'm going to kind of shade it in best I can very quickly. And now this is going to be purple. Now 3 p.m. I'm going to get out another color. Hopefully I can get out this red. And now finally move to sunset. So I'm going to get out my last color and shade it in. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my light. I'm going to turn back on my lamp, and let's see what happened once the light adjusts. So I'm going to go back through and kind of darken some of this. So sunrise was right here. When we create a shadow, the shadow is always cast on the opposite side of our object. So the light was over here at sunrise. The shadow is going to be cast at the opposite side over here in brown. Nine a.m. was orange. So the sun was here. The shadow's always cast on the opposite side. And so right here is orange. And we can kind of see the orange goes from here to here. Purple was noon. And if we kind of outline purple again, purple was from here to here. If we keep on going and we went to 3, 3 was that red color. Red started right here and ended right here. Trying to make it outline a little easier for y'all. And lastly, green was our last one for sunset. And it started here and the shadow kind of ended right there as it was going on. So I want you to pause the video and discuss and think, what do you see about these colors? What do you see about the shadows that were created? Sunrise, 9 a.m., noon, 3 p.m., sunset. What do you notice about the shadows that were created? Well, hopefully y'all had some very great discussions. And you probably said a lot of different things. One thing that I noticed is that at sunrise and sunset, the shadows were the biggest, or were the largest and longest. And at midday, at noon, the shadows were the shortest. So they were longest at sunrise and sunset. And as it was going up, 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 up in the sky, it was getting shorter and shorter in shadows. So as it was near that horizon line, as it was kind of at the beginning and the end, it was the longest shadow. And as it got higher in the sky, it made a smaller shadow. Now, one thing I want to say, that when we do these experiments, that sometimes these experiments are good illustrations, but don't always give us the best idea, or give us a good idea, but not always the exact thing. One thing I want to point out is that if our light source is exactly above our object, it will create no shadow. So for that very small moment of time when our sun is directly above us, when it's at its highest point, exactly before it begins to go down again, we won't have a shadow. But if it's slightly before or slightly after, when it's at its highest point, we'll have a shadow. And so I wasn't able to get the perfect spot for our object to have no shadow. But the important thing to remind us and understand is that at sunrise and sunset, we'll have the biggest shadow, or the biggest and the longest shadow. And as we continue to move, as the sun moves throughout the day and goes higher and higher in the sky, the shadows get shorter. And then when it begins to descend again, they'll get longer. So I hope this video helps explain how shadows move, or change throughout the day. And I can't wait to see y'all in the next video. Bye, everyone.